Welcome on in, hockey fans. You have found your way back to the neutral zone here on IE Sports Radio. Going on tonight, a big news show on the way tonight. The NHL is expected to announce tomorrow, reports coming from both The Athletic and ESPN, that its players will not be participating in the 2022 Beijing Olympic Games. What does this mean for the rest of the NHL regular season? What does this mean for scheduling? What arenas are going to be available? How is all this going to work? We will be discussing that. Plus, the NHL is taking a little bit of a break for Christmas coming up. Merry COVID to you. With so many teams facing outbreaks, lots of players, coaches, even trickling down into the minor leagues having COVID outbreaks, the league is suspending all games starting tomorrow through to the end of the weekend and into the beginning of next week. We will be discussing that as well. Buckle on up. This is going to be a big one tonight. You have found the neutral zone on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome back on in, everybody, to the Neutral Zone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Zach Pupelis is got the night off. Not originally planned. He's got a bit of a sore throat tonight. He was involved in a musical the last few weeks. Lots of singing and talking, and it got to his throat. So, obviously, when you're doing a talk show, you need your voice to work, so he's taking a night off. So you've got me solo tonight. I guess you could say we're doing a penalty kill, down a man here. So before we get too much into the show, of course, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors for the week here at IE Sports Radio, starting with the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Find them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at Southern California _Warriors, or go on Facebook, search Southern California Warriors. And Background Check International. Businesses, are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Fremen take care of that for you. Kit founded it and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes, such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Go to their website, bcint.com, or find them on Facebook, Background Check International-BCI. And IE Sports Radio, we are available on all of the major social platforms as well at IE Sports Radio, whether that's Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, or you go to our website, iesportsradio.com. Did you know for the last 7.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 27 of our shows, and shows 28 and 29 are going to be making their debuts here in the very near future. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to all our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And a shout out to our sponsors on Patreon at Bay Area Raised and at MLOS Great. Thank you to you guys for helping to support us on Patreon. Again, go on Patreon, search IE Sports Radio, or you can go onto our website. We've got the link right there. Makes it really simple, easy, and thank you for doing that. Then ways to follow along here a little more closer to home. You can follow along with this show on Twitter. We are at IESR Neutral Zone. Zach is at The Pupless. I am at Adam_Karnick. So I wanted to start tonight with the big news of the day. I figured it would be the news that broke over the weekend, but then the situation changed during the day. The Athletic and ESPN are both reporting that there will be a formal announcement coming from the league tomorrow, but it's expected that the NHL and the NHL Players Association are going to announce that NHL players will not be made available for the Olympics in Beijing here in about 6 weeks or so in February. They had until January 10th to make a decision and pull out without any financial ramifications. They could have decided to pull out of the Olympics at any time, but January 10th was the cutoff to do so without facing financial penalties to the International Ice Hockey Federation and to the IOC. It's not unexpected. The chief concern, remember, this is something that the players were very aggressively pushing for when they had their most recent collective bargaining agreement. This was the most important thing to the players, you could argue, that they were allowed to participate in both the 2022 and the 2026 Winter Games, because they weren't allowed to participate in the 2018 games. The NHL has never been fond of its players being used in the Olympics. They've given a bunch of reasons for it over the years, but primarily it's financial. They don't like the lack of compensation that they get from the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation, and from the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, for the use of their players. Also, then, obviously, you're stopping the regular season for 2 or 3 weeks in February, right as you're gearing up and starting to push into heavy playoff mode. You have to push pause on the season. And owners legitimately are concerned about players getting injured while they're playing in the Olympics. It can happen, obviously, that you're playing hockey and you get hurt. Look at Kirby Dach. I'm going to reference from a Blackhawks perspective, from a Chicago perspective, because I am a recovering Blackhawks fan, as we've talked on the show with Zach at previous times. Kirby Dach was playing with the Canadian national team, actually just about a year ago, it was January of 2021, when he got injured and he missed the bulk of the 2021 season, last season in the NHL, because he broke his wrist playing a game for the national team. So it can happen that players get hurt overseas, and the owners have never been fond of the amount of compensation that they would get if that were to happen. At the end of the day, it's squabbling over money. If the NHL, the Hockey Federation, and the Olympic Committee could settle out a number, the NHL would agree with it. The players love playing in the Olympics. They were very upset that they didn't get to participate in 2018. And there's players who are upset that they're not going to get to participate this year in the Olympics. But it makes sense. The NHL has had to postpone 50 games, 50 games already this season due to outbreaks. We're having outbreaks in all of the major sports, in the NBA, in the NHL, and in the NFL, plus just in real life, outside of the sports world. Omicron is becoming the new primary version of COVID that everybody's facing and fighting, and it's more contagious. So people are getting it more easily. It's spreading faster. So you're having problems there with this. We're going to get more into that a little bit later on in the show, in the next segment tonight. We're going to get into that. But for now, the one thing that the NHL said when it gave the players the okay to participate in the Olympics, they said, but for these 2022 games, if the pandemic forces us to need that time for scheduling, we reserve the right to pull you guys out. And that's what they've done. They've got 50 games that need to be rescheduled already. We might have more by the time we actually get to February. The All-Star Game is still on. The All-Star Game was going to be the last event before the Olympic break. They were going to have the All-Star Game in early February, use that as kind of an informal send-off for some of the Olympic players, and then everybody else would go on their way. Obviously, there are players that the players are disappointed, obviously. You had guys like Sidney Crosby for Canada, who's played in prior Olympic Games, talked about what an honor it is. I saw a quote from Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets, who was probably going to be one of the goalies on the American national team, talking about how obviously he didn't get the opportunity to play in previous Olympics. And he brought up how he's going to be 32 the next time the Olympics come around. He doesn't know if he'll get that opportunity again. And certainly there are players that are feeling similar, that the next time this comes around, will they be able to participate for one reason or another? But you also have players that weren't going to be in the Olympics that are disappointed by this. They were getting a vacation. You had guys that had planned vacations for their families. They were going to leave for a week, go somewhere, Florida, Dominican Republic, you name it, someplace warm, and have a week's vacation, a nice break in the middle of the season to take some time off. Now they've just got the All-Star break, which is significantly shorter, just a couple of days as opposed to a few weeks. So you can understand why players are disappointed. At the same time, it's absolutely the right move. Zach and I have talked in prior episodes about the ramifications for catching COVID while you're overseas in China, the testing that they'd have to go through, and potentially it being up to 5 weeks that you spend in China quarantined due to having COVID. That's scary. That's not something anybody would want to have to deal with. So I understand why even the Players Association is on board with not participating in the Olympics. So who will be making up these teams then, since obviously NHL players are not going to be? You're going to see guys from the minor leagues potentially get used. You might see some minor league players. You might see some collegiate players get used there to try to fill up some roster spots, so some younger guys. There are also leagues overseas in Europe, in Russia. The KHL is probably one of the most famous ones to be known in Russia, the KHL. But there are other leagues throughout the world, and there are Americans who are playing in those leagues. For example, Kyle Beach, the John Doe from the Blackhawks scandal, he is currently playing in a league in Europe. So there are other leagues that there are American players who, they could be former NHL players who are, they're not, their bodies aren't good enough to play at an NHL level, but they're good enough to still play somewhat professionally and enjoy that for as long as you can. There are guys over there. So there are places to find these, but certainly the talent level will be down as a result in the Olympics. And the teams that will almost certainly be most affected by this will be the U.S. and Canadian teams. Those will be the national teams that will be hurt the most, obviously, when you're having, you're having guys like Sidney Crosby not be available. Connor McDavid suddenly isn't available to Team Canada. That's going to affect their output. The Russian Federation, you don't get Alexander Ovechkin all of a sudden. That's going to affect things. But the U.S. and Canadian teams will be the ones that will be most affected going into the Olympics. So rough, but understandable why it had to happen. Part of the reason, of course, I mentioned was they've got 50 games now that they have to make up. Part of the reason they have to make up 50 games, they have postponed all games. There's one game going on tonight. The Lightning and the Golden Knights just dropped the puck about 10 minutes ago. That is the last game until after Christmas. We will discuss the impromptu Christmas break that the NHL is taking on the other side of a break. This is the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Karnick. We will be right back after this break.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your brother Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before, you gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest, always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Were you listening to a great game on USRN, but then the Wi-Fi crashed in the final seconds? Or do you simply want to listen to the best calls we here at USRN have to offer? Well then, you need to go check out our Audio Boom page. It holds a collection of our best calls that you don't want to miss. How do I get there, you ask? You can download the Audio Boom app and look up Ultimate Sports Radio, or simply go to audiobook.com/Ultimate Sports Radio. And as always, thanks for listening and making USRN one of the most talked about sports networks on Mixler.com.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back to the Neutral Zone, hockey fans. One segment down, another one to go, but they are connected. We talked in the first segment. I am Adam Kernick, by the way, your host on the Neutral Zone. Zach Puplis has the night off, so it's just me tonight. Zach, We'll be back next week. It's okay. It's nothing bad as I throw things around the studio. Sorry about that. So just me tonight for those just tuning in. In the first segment, we talked about the NHL pulling players out of the Olympics. Very sad, but very expected. Part of the reason they have to do that 2-week block, they're going to be using that to make up a lot of games. 50 games have already been postponed this season due to COVID outbreaks amongst teams. In fact, tonight is the final night for NHL until after Christmas. There were originally supposed to be about a dozen or so games going on tonight. There were 10 games originally scheduled for tonight. Only one has actually gone on, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Las Vegas Golden Knights, which, I mean, if you're only going to have one game, that's a heck of a game. Currently tied at 1 with about 9.5 minutes left to go in the first. I can give you a quick scoring update here on that. Let's see. Fortier and Stone, the two goal scorers so far. Fortier, his first goal of the season for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then for Vegas, Mark Stone with his fifth goal, power play goal, about 3.5 minutes later. So Vegas and Tampa Bay tied at 1, about halfway, a little past halfway through the first period over on ESPN Plus. So that game, we will go check that out throughout the night as well. But originally there were 10 games on the docket for tonight, down to just that one. Over a third of the teams right now have had their play suspended by the NHL due to COVID outbreaks. That was a huge factor in shutting the entire league down. They had, over the weekend, they had decided that first they shut down international travel, that you weren't going to have games between teams needing to cross the U.S.-Canada border. That was going to obviously affect the Canadian teams very heavily, as there are so many more teams in the U.S. than in Canada. But then they realized that there were so many cases. 15% of all NHL players, effectively 1 in every 8 players, is in the COVID protocols right now for the NHL. So they had to do something. They decided they were going to be taking a small break anyway due to Christmas coming up. They were originally going to have games on Thursday and then not have any more games until Monday. Now they've just extended that a couple more days, so they'll have tomorrow and Thursday off, as well as then through the weekend, and try to restart everything then on Monday the 27th. We're seeing, I spoke a little bit about this in the first segment too, we're seeing all 3 of the major U.S. sports leagues go through something like this, having to revamp their COVID policies, having to go through and address what they're going to do. The NFL, for example, is right now, they're taking the tact of they're just going to stop testing, that they're going to rely upon players to self-report if they're not feeling well, but they're going to stop testing so that they don't have all these players that they have to then put on the COVID list. I think that's ridiculous. That's, to me, absolutely the wrong move to make. But I understand why they're wanting to do it. And the NHL players are a bit frustrated too, where the leagues, by and large, have done a really good job, and the players' unions, the players' associations, by and large, have done a really good job of getting players vaccinated so that they can stay safe, they can stay healthy or recover faster, all those good, important medical things. And what we're seeing for a lot of teams, a lot of players, that when they wind up on the COVID list in the NHL, they're under the weather for 1 to 3 days, but then they recover and they feel like they're ready to go. But they have to be out a mandatory 10 days. So players are feeling frustrated that, hey, why do I have to sit out all this time when I feel ready to go? And the NFL has started doing some testing to see, trying to see if they can get players back who are asymptomatic and are effectively no longer contagious. And there was some really good stuff. I was reading an ESPN article about this from the NHL's perspective on it before doing the show tonight. And there was a doctor from Toronto who's kind of been advising the NHL and working with them on coming up with policies and things like that for this, that he points out when talking about effectively looking at how contagious somebody is, the data that they collect for that apparently goes old and out of date very quickly. He said the tests that they do, they shortened it to CT. It's not a scan. It's not a CT scan. It's a different test that they're doing. But effectively, that data that they collect is out of date after it's 8 hours old. So you need to collect that very quickly, very soon before you're going to have either a game or a practice or an event. The league right now, the NHL is in its advanced COVID protocols. If you're on the road, you don't go out to eat. Even if you're home, they'd say stay in. If you're in the buildings, if you're in team facilities, you're masked up. Whether you're vaccinated or not, everybody's masked up. You're getting tested every day there's a practice or a game, you're getting tested. So they've got these advanced protocols in place because you're seeing so many people coming down with it. And one of the things with the NHL is say, well, why don't you just pull up players? You've got a minor league system. You've got the American Hockey League. You've got the ECHL. Why aren't you just pulling up guys from the minors? It's affecting the minors too. There were some quotes from the New Jersey Devils general manager. He said, we called 3 guys up from our minors, from our minor league team. One of them tested positive, and the other 2, as standard protocol for getting them in, you have to test them. One of the guys tests positive. The other 2 are deemed close contacts. You can't use them. They all enter the protocols then at that point, and they become unusable. So this is even trickling down into the minor leagues. Teams are being affected. So they've had to postpone these games. But now that they've postponed these games, they've got to make them up, which is why they wanted to pull out of the Olympics so that they could use that time to try and make it up. That's not going to be as easy as it sounds, though. The NHL, when they were creating the schedule for this season, they created a ghost schedule. I've seen it reported a few times in a couple different places that they created a ghost schedule on the chance that players didn't go to Beijing and they were going to need that Olympic break to try to make up time in the schedule. So they had a schedule in mind. They went to the arenas and they asked everybody, please don't schedule any events during the Olympic break because there's a chance we're going to need you because we're not going to be participating in the Olympics. Well, a lot of those arenas, understandably, didn't do that. They said, we need revenue. We're hurting after last year, too. Everybody's trying to make up for lost revenue from 2020. Still trying to get ahead of the game, trying to get back to pre-pandemic levels for job security and income and all those kinds of things. So the arenas may not be as available as they would like. Again, I'm going to give just the Chicago perspective here real quick because it was what I looked up real quickly. So for reference, again, the Olympics are, the dates on those are February 4th through February 20th. That's the date for the Olympics. The hockey schedule, part of that wouldn't have been all of that, but a good chunk of it. Let's just look at the United Center for a moment. In February, those dates, and the All-Star game for the NHL is the weekend of February 5th. So obviously you're not having games then, but you're talking February 7th through February 19th, realistically, are the dates where they're going to look to try to make some of these games up. Just using United Center as an example, they have Bulls games on the 7th, 11th, 12th, 14th, and 16th. And then on the 19th, they have a concert, the Chris Tomlin and United, a music group coming in on the 19th. So there's 6 days where United Center's not available for the Blackhawks, and they've got games that they need to make up. They were supposed to be playing Florida tonight in United Center. Obviously, that's not going to be happening. So you're down to, you've only got 7 days where United Center is available to try to make up games. I'm going to do this on the fly real quick. I do apologize that I didn't have all of this up when we started. Staples Center in Los Angeles. That's where the Kings play. It's also, obviously, in the NBA. That's where the Lakers and the Clippers play. And it's going to be renamed to Crypto.com Arena here. Yeah, I forgot about that. Neither here nor there. Just looking at their calendar. Pulling up the calendar here. The Lakers and Clippers both have games going there. You're talking they would have... Staples Center would be available 4 times during that stretch because obviously you've got the Lakers and the Clippers playing. You've got the Bud Light Super Bowl Music Fest going on. Since the Super Bowl's in Los Angeles this year, Crypto.com arena, or whatever the hell they call it now. Yeah, Crypto.com arena is being used for the Super Bowl festivities. So that cuts into, there's 3 days that are gone. Then you've got Clippers games, you've got Lakers games, you've got an event, Banda MS. I'm not sure what exactly that is, but there's another event that's going on that's going to take away available days for the Kings to try to make up home games, and that's just 2 examples off of just quick doing a little bit of Googling. It's going to be very tricky to try to make up. They're not going to be able to make up all these games in that little 2-week window that they create by not going to the Olympics. And they've also talked that the players, I mentioned again how the players that weren't going to be involved in the Olympics, they were looking forward to the Olympic break too, because they were going to get to go on vacation. Well, they'd still like that time off, so they have to look to see, can they still give the players something, anything here, since they were expecting vacation time during that. So there's also talk that what might work too is kicking the regular season out a few extra weeks and delaying the start of the playoffs. So there's all kinds of scheduling issues and nightmares going on in the NHL right now with these 50 games. And again, it's at 50 right now that are postponed. It could be more. You know, we've still got games next week in December and January that are coming up. Plus, it's still a pandemic. There's lots that could be going on. So a very fluid situation that we'll see what they come up with, but it's going to be very, very tricky for them going forward. All right. We're going to take one more break, and then when we come back, we'll take another look in at the Lightning and the Golden Knights out in Vegas, see what's going on there. And we'll just do a quick rundown since the league has given us this little bit of a break here right before Christmas. We'll just take a peek at the standings and look at who's doing what. This is the Neutral Zone on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am Adam Karnick. We will be right back after this break.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Lentarius Live.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hey, what's up, BS3 sports fans? If you love listening to the BS3 Sports Show, check out the weekend wrap-up every Monday at 12:15 Central Time, 1:15 Eastern, recapping the weekend in sports like you never heard it before. Comedy, interactive chat room, it's a must-listen. Weekend wrap-up on Spreaker.com, part of the X Squad. Check it out. You won't be disappointed.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Scoreboard Show with your host, Gabriel Montoya. This is the show for soccer, football fans, or whatever you call the beautiful game. Every week, I tackle the latest and greatest news from around the soccer world, from the English Premier League to the World Cup to MLS, Liga MX, and more. You can listen to the Soccer Scoreboard Show and our lineup of fantastic guests every Friday at noon here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. One last segment that we're doing tonight, then we'll get everybody out of here. Again, want to remind everybody, if you can, go to our website, iesportsradio.com, and click on our Patreon link, and you can get shouted out and referenced, just like at Bay Area Raised and at MLOS Great have for supporting us on Patreon. It starts at just $5 a month. Other perks involved in that. The more you give to us, the more we give to you. So be sure to check that out. We really do want to just be able to give more to everybody and grow more as a station. And with your help and support, we're able to do that. So thank you to everybody for taking the time for that. Before we get out of here, do want to take another look at the Tampa Bay Lightning and Las Vegas Golden Knights. They are at the end of the first, still tied at 1. Vegas dominated from the shots on goal perspective, 17-5 in favor of Vegas in that period. The Lightning dominated the face-off circle. 12 out of the 18 face-offs went to Tampa Bay. Vegas' one goal came on the power play, their one chance. Tampa Bay had a power play opportunity, could not convert. Vegas really getting in the way, too, of shots. 8 blocked shots by Vegas in that first period. So that's cutting into the shot on net total, obviously, for Tampa up to this point. Only getting 5 shots on net. Vegas 17. Only one went in, though. So still very much anybody's game at this point at the end of the first period. Goals, again, by for Tampa Bay, their goal was scored by, I want to get everybody's first names in here, so I want to make sure I pull it up correctly. And it is not letting me see Fortier's first name. I apologize. So G. Fortier with his first goal of the season at 6:05, and then Mark Stone on the power play. Assist from Max Pacioretty and Shane Theodore on that for the Golden Knights. Gabriel Fortier with the goal in the first period for Tampa Bay. Temporarily gave the Lightning the lead. Mark Stone with the power play tied things up. So since the NHL has given us a bit of a break here at Christmas, similar going on with the NCAA going on, Christmas break, not as much hockey going on suddenly. And this will be a good conversation to have with Zach when Zach's back next week. I wonder if a break here at Christmas time might not be a bad idea for the NHL to kind of pursue and look at doing, maybe have this be kind of a regular thing. Again, we just talked about how they've got to cram all these games back in and they need every day on the calendar they can get. But eventually, this pandemic is going to end and we'll be able to operate a bit more normally. I can't wait. And maybe taking a little bit of an extended break, maybe not a full 5 or 6 days like they're doing now, but maybe 3 or 4, a little bit extra time off might be kind of fun. So looking at the standings right now in the Eastern Conference, over in the Atlantic, you've got Tampa Bay and Toronto tied for first with 42 points each. Now, Tampa playing tonight, of course, that would give them an opportunity to break out of that tie. They've played one less game than Toronto. They'll have the same number of games played here by the end of the night. Florida right behind them at 40 points. Then the Detroit Red Wings at 4th place in the Atlantic with 33 points. The Boston Bruins at just 30 points. Then you get down into the bottom cellar of the Atlantic Division. Buffalo, 25 points in 30 games. Ottawa, just 20 points in 28 games. And the Montreal Canadiens, only 17 points in 31 games. Just 7, 21, and 3. The big one that jumps out to me right now, Detroit. 15, 13, and 3. They are 11, 3, and 2 at Little Caesars Arena. Very impressive from a very young team overall. They've won 6 out of their last 10. They do have a goal differential of -16. So they're having some puck luck. Obviously, that home record is just out of this world, and their schedule's a little home heavy right now. They've played 16 home games as of, I'm sorry, no, it's 16 and 6. I can't do math. They've played 16 home games to 15 road games. That's about as even of a split as you can get, so I apologize for my failure at doing math there. But that's obviously a big surprise there. In the Metropolitan Division, you've got Carolina and Washington at 43 points each. Carolina has only played 29 games, so the Hurricanes at 21-7-1 are in first place. The Rangers right behind them, 42 points. Pittsburgh still very much alive, 39 points overall. Then you have the dip. Columbus and Philadelphia both at 29 points. The Devils at 25. The Islanders at 22. The Islanders at just 22 points is the surprise to me there. I would have expected more out of the Islanders to this point. Then over in the Western Conference, the Central Division, the Minnesota Wild with 40 points in 30 games, 19-9-2. Nashville and St. Louis right behind them with 39 points. Colorado at 36. Bit of a surprise that Colorado off to a little bit of a sluggish start there at 17-8-2. Got to believe that they will be turning things around. And you look at, they've got a goal differential of plus 24. They'll get some more wins. That'll pick up a bit. Winnipeg then at 33 points. Dallas 32. The Blackhawks at 26. And Arizona at just 14 points in 29 games. 6-21-2. And finally, over in the Pacific Division, Vegas and Anaheim, both with 40 points. Vegas, one less game, so technically in first, but they are playing their 32nd game right now, so depending on how that goes, they could get out of the tie with Anaheim. Calgary and Edmonton, both at 36 points. The Kings at 33, San Jose at 31, Vancouver at 30, and the expansion Seattle Kraken, a respectable 10-17-3 overall for 23 points, bottom of the Pacific Division. Calgary keeping up with Edmonton to this point, tied for third in the division. Calgary's played one less game, so therefore right now Calgary has the extra spot. They have been killing it on the road, 11-4-2 away from Calgary. They did go into the break at a 4-game losing streak. That's because they've got 11 guys out with COVID. That will rebound and change. So yeah, you never like to have a big break like this in your schedule if you can help it, but having one at Christmas might not be the worst thing to have going forward. Well, that is going to do it for our show tonight. Thank you to, again, our sponsors, the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team and Background Check International, for continuing to sponsor not just this show, but every show here on the network. Thank you to Taryn for hopping into the chat room a little bit and saying hello. Good to see you. Thank you to Larry for all the crazy work you do, keeping everything running here at IE Sports, making sure that we've got our schedules straight and just keeping things going, getting 2 new shows added. Be on the lookout for that. We're going to be adding Louisiana and Wisconsin here in the near future. Not a lot of hockey talk down in Louisiana, but in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Badgers are always worth talking about in Big Ten hockey, and they've got the Milwaukee Admirals in the AHL, so some fun there coming up. And finally, thank you for continuing to come here and listen to us every single week. I know it's disappointing that you only had me tonight. I miss Zach too, believe me. He will be back. We will be back at full strength next week. Until then, everybody have a wonderful, safe, enjoyable Christmas. we will talk next week. Until then, stay out of the penny box. Don't get checked into the boards. Light the lamp. Merry Christmas. We'll see everybody next week. This is Adam Karnick signing off for the Neutral Zone.